everyone who's staying for this Q&A. I'm Rebecca Priestley and we are here with filmmaker Gwen Isaacs and Susie Wiles, the subject. First, just a round of applause for Gwen and Susie. I think that was wonderful. I had a little cry at the end. I know Susie and I know a fair bit about what she's been through over the last couple of years, but seeing it like this in a documentary, it's something else. So thank you, Gwen and Susie. We're going to have a bit of a chat now. I have some questions for Gwen and Susie, then I'll open it up to the audience. So start thinking about what you might want to ask. Gwen, first of all, you started following Susie quite early on in the pandemic, and I want to know when. When did you start following Susie, and how did you know that this was going to be a big story worthy of a documentary, or at what stage did you realise that?
So I was meant to be making a film about an MMA fighter in Japan. There's much resemblance to Susie, as you can imagine, but that flight got cancelled out of Auckland, and I had an email exchange with Susie, and she had said she might be interested in participating in a film. So I went left instead of right at the airport, basically, to another story I could have followed about another MMA fighter, and went to Susie's house, and that was 4 days where she put up with me poking my camera into her face, and that became the short documentary Susie and the Virus. And then thanks to the faith and support of Phillida Perry and then eventually Alex Reid, my two fabulous producers, we kept going and ended up 2 years later with a film.
Fabulous. And Susie, as shown in the film, you do a lot of science communication, public engagement, and you do often put yourself in it. Your daughter Eve has worked with you on various things, but you've always been in control of the story yourself. How did it feel to hand over that control to someone else?
Oh, horrible. Horrible. So the reason I agreed to be involved in the first place was because a very good friend of mine, Rebecca, is a historian, and she had said at the very beginning of the pandemic, this looks like it's going to be really big, can you document everything? And so when Gwen came and said, when I got this email saying, potentially do a documentary, a short documentary, I was like, this is perfect, because I have zero time to document anything. This would be really cool, because she can just sort of capture the insanity of what's going on. And that was, that first film. And then Gwen was quite persuasive, and she used her feminine wiles to convince me to carry on being followed. I think the reason I agreed was because she lives in Wellington and I live in Auckland, and so I knew that it was going to be a periodic thing rather than like every day, because there would be no film had we lived in the same city, I don't think. And so, it was really hard to know that. We didn't know what the story. I didn't know what the story was going to be. I guess Gwen didn't really know what the story was going to be at the beginning, or if she did, she didn't really tell me what the story was going to be. And then to see what emerged, it took great trust, and I'm really grateful that Stephen and Eve agreed. They're great. You see them, they're great, aren't they? When everybody asks me, how do I manage? That's how I manage. And so, I think the thing we always have to remember is that when you see people doing amazing things, that's because they're surrounded by amazing people who support them. And so, this film wouldn't have happened if they had really said no. But they are always kind of, oh God, here she goes again, all right. And I'll always be grateful for that.
Thank you. One of the things that I noticed in the film, and that I know from talking to you, is your difficulty getting funding for your research, your scientific research, to keep on funding your lab. And Gwen, I was wondering about what parallels there are in the film industry. And I'm hoping there are some people here who helped support Gwen's Booster campaign. We want to put our hands up for anyone who contributed. Awesome, thank you.
Thank you so much.
So Gwen did raise more than $100,000 through a crowdfunding boosted campaign.
Wow.
So Gwen, I want to know what sort of led to the decision to do that, at what stage in the process? Was that part of the plan, or is that just how things panned out?
Alex Reid said to me earlier this week that I'll never make a film like this again, and what she actually meant is, as a producer, it's around the fact that we just had to go it alone, Phillida, Alex and I, and me, I never remember, and that meant just DIY, guerrilla style, trusting our gut and thinking that there would be an audience for this film. We were told quite early on by the potential biggest funder in this country that it wasn't really ever going to see the light of day, so it's very gratifying to sit in this room right now. I'm not going to cry, I promise. So hopefully we prove to them that there is indeed an audience for films like this, but in the cinema, which we know is tricky for everybody at the moment. But, so we just, I have an incredible institution I work for, and they believed in me, so there were grants, because for my day job is a university lecturer, and then the crowdfunding, and then private investors that brought on board mainly by Phillida Perry, who's magical in that way. She's got many more feminine wiles than me.
Do you have any wider comment on the issue of funding for documentaries in this country at the moment?
I think they're our tonga. I think that if we don't have documentaries, we have no way of reflecting on our identity and our culture, and they seem to be a business everywhere else, apart from here. I've been passionate about them. When I was growing up in Kororareka in the far north, I saw Michael Apted's 7 Up series and knew that's what I wanted to do with my life, and luckily people like Susie sometimes agree to letting me observe them closely. I just think it's awesome, but I wish people who can bring money to films and make them happen with less torture and battle than we had agreed with me.
Yeah, well, I think you've had a lot of supporters here tonight. Susie, I shed a few tears towards the end, and it really struck me how much worse things had been than I had known. And I know that over the last year or so you've sometimes chosen to keep a bit of a low profile, and I'm wondering what's happening for you now that you are sort of, hyper visible up on the big screen, and how's that feeling?
Yeah, it's certainly one of my concerns with the film coming out. I guess the thing to say is that this is just my life now, so while the filming sort of stopped, a couple of years ago now.
2022.
Yeah, this is my life now, that I'm just a target for people, and even though COVID's not, we're not in the same space, there's no chance of lockdowns or any of these kinds of things. There are people who are trying to use our early COVID response, or trying to kind of like rewrite history and trying to stop us remembering what an amazing response we did have, and how amazing it is when we all come together and do things collectively for the collective good. And so the harassment continues, the death threats continue, all of this stuff continues, even if I don't do anything. So people still talk about me on all these other social media channels. I'm just one of the witches, one of the whatever who they hate. So I'm still, I guess, really cautious around my security and my safety. And I don't know whether that's ever going to go away. I mean, I'm hopeful, but I don't know. I guess, I don't know. And we know that with the election coming up, there are definitely groups and politicians who are, again, sort of, using our COVID response as a sort of thing to try and gather votes, or being anti our early COVID response, and so that every time some of those people, start going on about lockdowns and blah blah blah, then a whole bunch of harassment starts again. So yeah, it just feels like this is it now. But because it feels like a long time ago since we did any of those things. So I hope it goes away eventually.
We're going to open things up for some audience questions. So I think we're going to take one of these mics. We'll have a roving mic, so do put your hand up high. We've got a question here at the front. So Gwen, while we're waiting for this question, I was just interested in the music. David Long did the music for this. Can you talk a bit about that collaboration?
Going to David's house is so great because he makes an amazing cup of tea, but he does have a dog that's a bit smelly, just to warn you. It's an incredible, safe pair of hands and very, it feels very organic. But at a certain point I did think he got very busy and I was sort of like, you know, things sped up. But I'm glad, I think the score just really digs into the emotional journey that you went on, Susie, and that we crafted. John Sylvester, the editor, crafted painstakingly over best part of 1 year. So very lucky to have him, and also Briar Prestiti did some of the score as well. Very keen to see more women come into the forefront of that profession.
We've got a question. Oh, where is the mic? Okay, sorry.
All right. Susie, most of us know that Elon Musk recently bought out Twitter, renamed it X, and now he started boosting all his favourite conspiracy theorists under the guise of what he calls "quote-unquote" free speech. Do you see yourself remaining on the platform for much longer, or do you think you're going to switch to a different platform such as Mastodon or Substack?
That's a great question. I definitely am not very active anymore. And I mean, my account has been locked for a long time, so so I now don't get much harassment on social media because people just don't see it. And I would like to, I guess I just need a bit of time to start figuring out how those other ones work. I mean, you know, I've been using, I'm going to keep calling it Twitter, I've been using it for a long time, and so it's kind of sad when one of your favourite things gets broken by somebody. So yeah, it's, but I feel old and I need to learn how to use all the other ones. Maybe in my summer holidays, whatever platform is available then, I might start learning how to use.
Okay, we've got a question here.
First of all, thank you, Susie, for everything that you did for us. My question is... you were also around a number of men that was also giving scientific advice. Were they also getting abuse?
It's a great question. Yes, they definitely have become targets as well. But the people who study this say there's definitely a gendered aspect to it. So as a woman, I get more. As a fat woman, I get more. As a loud woman, I get more. And so, you know, there's as a society, we have for hundreds and hundreds of years have pushed back against women who don't, you know, who break societal norms. So the harassment we experience is just like that much more. And the things people feel comfortable saying to us, writing to us, are that much more. So, yes, so absolutely I know that people are saying horrible things about the others too, but my understanding is that some of the things that are said about me and other women like our former Prime Minister are that much worse.
Okay, do we have the mic with someone else?
Yes. Thanks so much, Susie and Gwen. Amazing work. And this is a question, I guess, for you, Rebecca, because as someone who does study science communication, if not communicate yourself very well, it's actually, what do you think, because I think the film does not sort of explain the world outside of, it's very much about Susie's experience, and I'm interested, what would have happened with it to us without Susie's communication?
I think it would I'd follow what Susie said in the film, was if it wasn't me, then the questions would be going to someone else. And the danger, I think maybe Sean Hendy said this, or no, you said this, Susie, if not me, then who? And I'm going to hand this on to Susie.
I mean, there are times when I didn't take media interviews, and then the people who were asked completely changed the tone of how the story played out. So, you know, what I was trying to do in those early days was remain calm, you know, and it's all based on the fact that the evidence shows that if we panic, we don't act in our best interests. And the evidence also shows that those communities who come through disasters better are the ones who work together. So those are the two things I was trying to really kind of bring to the fore in my communication, was to be calm and to kind of just keep addressing that kind of collective action. And so times when I didn't pick up the phone, whatever it was that was being presented ended up being kind of more fear-mongery than it needed to be, you know. So I mean, it's a hard thing to say, you know. I did what I did. I mean, I know that what's not really touched on much in the film is my collaboration with Toby Morris, and you know, that was a collaboration that went completely global. You know, our graphics were used by people all around the world who needed it far more than we did to know how could they protect themselves, right? We had all sorts of protections in place that the government put in place. So I think it's you know, I guess this is a thing that historians will study for years, and I guess we'll find out in their papers in years to come just what a role all of us played. And I think, you know, the fact that we had good information, we had leaders that were willing to act on it, and we had people who knew, you know, what was at stake and were willing to do the right thing. I think it was a really good combination. And I think what we've seen from countries overseas is that if you lose any one of those, if you don't have good communication, if you don't have good leadership, or if you don't have a willing populace, it was a very different pandemic experience for what we did.
Thanks. We've got a question here, Richard.
Thanks, Rebecca. You made an understanding statement about the people who had bullied you had beaten you up. Do you have a similar thing to say about the people who are criticising you so viciously online? How do you understand them, and what have you learned about them over the last 2 years?
So I guess there's, I would put my harassers into at least two groups. So there are those people who are creating information or basically using me as a way to further their agenda, right? So there are people who make up lies about me, or who you know, take something with a grain of truth and then turn it into something horrible, or because they're trying to make money, or they're trying to convince people of something that will further their agenda. For them, I have nothing but loathing and a deep desire to see them, to see justice, basically, to see them stopped, because what they are doing is dangerous for all of us. For the people who fall for that shit, though, I mean, I have sympathy, right? There are really genuine reasons why people have grievances about what happened to us. I mean, you know, we've all experienced the most astonishing, outlandish thing, right? And I guess we've experienced pandemics before that just haven't played out this way, because this virus is very different to everything else we've encountered. And so, you know, people who have historically had bad interactions with the state, you know, or who have had bad interactions with doctors, you know, there are many people who have grievances or are uneasy about authority, who have just been really willing receptacles for that shit and for being, you know, abused in that way. And so for them, I feel utter sympathy, because actually many of them now are living in an alternate reality, one where they have lost friends and family, and they are just being played, and they don't realise they're being played, and that is just heartbreaking.
Well said.
So, as a follow-up to that, with my scientist hat on, the really important thing we know from the evidence is that the second group that are heartbreaking, the people who will convince them, who will change their minds, are their friends and family. So I guess try not to give up on those people, and try to bring them back to the fold, because we know that we face some horrendous challenges in our future, climate change and various other things, and we also know that many of the solutions to those are being roundly attacked. And so we need everybody on board to kind of deal with those things, and so we will need those people who have a conspiratorial mindset to be sort of brought, back into the fold. And so if those people are in your lives, I know it's probably really hard, but try and remind them why you love them and that you care about them, because the evidence shows that you're the one who can change their mind. Down here.
Kia ora. This is, I guess, a question for both Gwen and Susie. This movie is a really brave thing for both of you to have done, and you have the support of your whānau and friends and so on, but I was really struck in the movie with the scene when you're talking to the lawyer, Susie, and you say that your HR department didn't really appreciate what was happening. And you both, in your day jobs, work for organisations, as many people do. What are the kind of things that organisations can do or could be doing to support women like yourselves?
Right, that's a massive question. Just going back to Susie, I think, do you mean support in terms of safety? I don't personally feel unsafe in my workplace, and I think that's quite an extreme thing that plays out in the film. Most of us hopefully don't experience.
Not just safety, but also in terms of supporting your message, perhaps more publicly, or those kind of things. In this day to day, what can help? What did help?
You mean, is it a gender question? Are you talking about, I think, Susie's?
Okay. So I'm going to start by saying, because you asked what they can do to help and what they did do to help. So I'm just going to be quite provocative and say that when I ask the question, what did they do to help, the only way I can answer that question is to say that I'm in a legal dispute with my employer, and we are heading, hopefully, to the employment court in November. So you will understand more about what they did to support me in November, if that becomes public knowledge. What they could do, what organisations could do, is they need to understand that this is our reality now. And it's not just academics, right? It's everybody. It's politicians, it's decision makers. The reality now is that we have an online environment that is being manipulated, and we know this is being manipulated from things that Facebook did many years ago, right, to turning elections. So we know that vast platforms where we get much of our information are basically there to manipulate us. And we know that online hatred can turn into offline hurt. There have been deaths in other countries, right, where politicians and various other things. So the first thing is to understand the environment that we live and work in now, and to absolutely get the thing that online abuse can turn into real world abuse and hurt, because that is the thing that I have struggled to get people to really understand. And I think once you understand that there is a real, there's not just people being nasty on social media, there is a risk that we will be harmed in real life, then it sets in train a whole bunch of other stuff, and you don't ask people like me, you ask people who know about security and safety. You ask the experts, what can you do to support your staff who are potentially facing real world harm? So yeah, ask the experts.
We've got a question down the front.
Excuse me while I get up. I just wanted to say two things. First, I'm so sorry, Susie, that you had to undergo all that crap. Somewhat naive, so I was also surprised when our dear leader, no reference to North Korea, Jacinda departed so, for me, precipitously, but I hadn't realised that she'd also undergone such harassment. That's the first thing. And then I wanted to reiterate my gratitude that you came to, over Zoom, speak to an organisation in Wellington that I'm secretary of, Graduate Women Wellington. And my sense of time has just done really weird things, so I can't remember if it was 2021 or 2022. But we were really fortunate, privileged indeed, to have you Zoom in and address us. So thank you once again.
It's a pleasure. And yeah, I'm really bad at saying no to things. So much so that a friend of mine made me a jar that she filled with beautiful little notes, and she calls it my yes/no jar. And she says that when I get asked to do something, I'm supposed to pick a note out, and it will tell me whether or not I can do something. And the trick is that it's almost entirely no's. And the same, my daughter bought me for Christmas one year a no button that every time you press it, it says no different ways. So I'm really bad, and she will say, "Have you used your no button?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry."
Okay, we've got time for one more question, and it's going to be for the filmmaker.
Yes.
Is there a question for Gwen?
Can I just quickly say a big thank you to the New Zealand International Film Festival? You're wonderful people, and it's thanks to you guys accepting the film to the festival that catalysed the finishing fund that we got from the New Zealand Film Commission.
Yeah.
So you guys.
I guess my question for you then, Gwen, is are you working on anything new now?
Yes, I have a film underway set in the far north about a mystery from my own childhood that took place in the 80s. So it's one of those films about, self-reflexive. It'll be a laugh riot like this one, I'm sure.
Super. Thanks everyone for staying on, and a big clap for Gwen.
Very nice.
Oh, no.